Hi, I'm Pride Red. I got a letter from Sheetal the other day. Starts off with a couple of quotes here. An insincere and evil friend is more to be feared than a wild beast. A wild beast may wound your body, but an evil friend will wound your mind. The next one is, there's nothing more dreadful than doubt. Doubt separates people. It is a poison that disintegrates friendships and breaks up pleasant relationships. It is a thorn that irritates and hurts. It is a sword that kills. She goes on, she asks, so when we talk about compassion to all, how do we deal with people we have in our lives who want to be our friends and of whom we are not sure about because of their past actions, intentions and speech towards other friends? Do we stay clear of those who we think may be harmful, or keep them in our life, spend time with them, and show compassion anyway? Okay, so first and foremost, the first quote you come up with, an insincere and an evil friend is more to be feared than a wild beast. A wild beast may wound your body, but an evil friend will wound your mind. And that's so true. I mean, we know what a wild beast can actually do to us. This is why most of us have a tendency not to dwell too closely to wild animals. We're very aware of the harm, and it's always the physical harm that we're actually concerned about when we would come into contact with these kind of beasties. The other day there was a place I wanted to go and visit here in Sri Lanka, and everybody told me that it was the wrong time of the year for me to be going there because there was actually tigers around. Now, of course, I was quite keen on seeing a tiger, but they were quite sure that probably not the best thing, a wild tiger meeting up with me in the jungle. And it's quite true, we do know that a wild beast can do that. But the mind is the one that we have to be very, very cautious of all the time, Sheetal. And unfortunately, we often find ourselves in a situation where the speech, the actions, all these sorts of things of others, those who would call themselves our friends, can actually be very harmful to our own minds. And it's very easy for us to actually start to follow the way they would live, and that is going to create all sorts of problems both in this life and in lives to come. And so yes, we do have to be very fearful of an evil friend. And then you say there's nothing more dreadful than doubt. Actually, doubt's a funny one because, one, to a degree we need to have a certain amount of doubt. If you're walking along the side of a cliff, and then suddenly you think to yourself, "Oh, I'm not sure if I should be standing so close." Well, actually, that's a fairly good doubt to have. It's a skeptical doubt, and it could well save your life. You say doubt separates people. It's a poisoner that disintegrates friendships. It's probably more. It probably gets deeper than just doubt. There is a lot of mistrust can take place. But I know what it's like sometimes, where we're not sure about a person, are they really our friend? I used to go through that, you have a relationship, it's like, where was my girlfriend, where was my boyfriend last night? I tried to phone you, why didn't you answer me? And you start to, all these things start to go through your mind. And so these are doubts that you start to bring into your own mind. And they can, of course, destroy, wonderful relationships. There are many people that can testify to exactly that sort of thing. Because doubt starts to come up in relationships, jealousy starts to rear its ugly head. Then anger, and all those other nasty bits and bobs that are attached to that sort of thing. So now you're asking about, when we talk about having compassion to all, how do we deal with people in our lives? But we're not sure about them because of their past actions, intentions and speech towards other friends. Well, first and foremost, I mean, you talk about their past actions. You know, people are capable of change. You know, we're all capable of change. I mean, you know, I still have very vivid memories of a you know, past that, to say the very least, was most unpleasant for a lot of people around me. You know, the gang warfare, the drugs, you know, all that sort of thing. But that's past. You know, now no doubt there are people who probably still wouldn't trust me today. You know, because they would have some form of doubt. And I guess to a degree I can understand that. But people are capable of changing. You know, good people can become bad people, and bad people can become good people. So when you talk about their past actions, how far in the past are you discussing? But something you need to remember, that if it's somebody who you know that even today, for instance, if they are given to gossiping about other people, well, I can guarantee you that, you know, they'll be quite happy to gossip about you as quick as look at you, you know. So that's something you do have to be very cautious about. So, you know, yes, we do have compassion for these people, and often it's not a bad thing to have them somewhere around us, but you may not necessarily need them to be in an inner circle of friends, so to speak. You know, this may cause you more harm than it does good. I mean, of course, you know, perhaps you can help them to see that, you know, their ways are incorrect, and this is why, of course, you know, the compassion to have them around you is necessary. But sometimes, you know, the old you know, you got to be cruel to be kind routine can kick in, and sometimes it can help. I remember when I was a young fella, I was about 13 years old, and about, I don't know, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, my mother received a telephone call from a policeman. You know, could you please come and get your son out of our cells, you know. Yeah, he's very drunk and he needs to go home. And my mother's attitude was, oh, sod him, if he can drink like a man, he can spend a night in the cells like a man, you know. You can keep him there. Well, the point was, my mother was trying to teach me a lesson, you know, that there are going to be consequences of my actions, you know, and if I want to go out and get myself, you know, blathered on, it was a bottle of rum I think I'd been drinking at the time, then there were going to be consequences, and these were consequences that I was going to have to deal with by myself. She wasn't always going to be there to bail me out, you know. And I didn't learn the lesson, I will admit, you know. Well, that's me. And some people won't learn the lesson, and in that case you just need sometimes to just walk away from them. But always be there for them. Always be there. If they sincerely need you, then be the person that they can come to. But don't let them treat you like a doormat. You know, don't let them walk all over you. You know, I think, you know, having known you, Sheetal, you're an intelligent person. You're a smart person. I think you'll know when you need to back off and to cut these people loose. But as I say, just be there. Let them know that you're not abandoning them, that you'll always be around should they need you. But let them know that there are certain behaviours that aren't acceptable around you, and see how that works. All right. I hope that helps you, Sheetal. It's a difficult one, I know, and there's a lot of it out there. This is one of the questions that I'm constantly being asked. And so I wish you all of the best, and if you need any more advice, please feel free to get in touch. Okay, bye now.